I really don't get worried about being injured on the slopes.
I don't really worry about myself running into other people. I feel like I'm kind of in control.
When I'm skiing, I feel like I'm in control. I can stay out of the way of people that are out of control.
I don't wear a helmet because I never really got the hang of it.
45-degree slopes are pretty dangerous, so take higher lines and stay closer to the trees.
Because I know what I'm doing, I just feel like it won't happen to me.
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 The dangers and inherent risks of skiing and snowboarding are part of the reason we got into this sport. You can go fast, huck big air, take chances, and push yourself. Because after all, bad things only happen to other people, right? What's up, everyone? I'm George Oliphant here in Vail, Colorado. In the next half hour, we're going to take a close look at the risky nature of our chosen winter sports. When American ski resorts took off in the 60s and 70s, skier numbers were smaller and major accidents were rare. But these days, larger resorts might host over 1.5 million skiers and riders each season. At Christmas and spring break, there might be as many as 17,000 on the hill. With those numbers comes an alarming trend over recent winter seasons. For the last 10 years, an average of 38 people have lost their lives here on American slopes. An average of another 42 have been involved in catastrophic, crippling accidents.
The witnesses, who happen to be some very close friends of mine, said that Jake passed them at a pretty high rate of speed, fast enough to make them a little nervous. He continued over a roller where they lost sight of him. That was the last time they saw him. From what we've gathered, after he went over that roller, he lost control and began to tumble, and that's when we think he broke C1 and C2 of his neck. When we arrived, Jake's friends were actually trying to do CPR. My first look at Jake, I could tell that this was a serious situation, and that he didn't look like he was going to make it. He was going too fast. That's the bottom line, and especially when you don't know the terrain, going too fast, and you just don't have, things happen too quick. You can't react in time. You never think it's going to be you or your friend. It's always, a story that you hear about. I was still doing my job. I was holding on to one of the tail ropes behind the toboggan, and I just felt my whole body go weak. I almost felt sick to my stomach, and it was just a wave of just disbelief. It was a terrible feeling.
The element of your responsibility code that I believe should be the one that you lead off with is always ski under control. Always be under control. Certainly apply the other ones, but when you are in control, and that's just not physically in control, that's mentally in control, managing your risk, staying in control physically, you'll have a safe, enjoyable day.
But I think one of the things that the least understood and least appreciated element of the responsibility code is that the person below you has the right of way. You, as the skier or boarder above, have the responsibility for avoiding that individual, and it's up to you to make the right choices of speed and direction. You're the one responsible for avoiding the person below you.
The issue of personal accountability on the slopes garnered international attention in January 2001, when Nathan Hall was convicted of criminally negligent homicide and sentenced to 90 days in jail for fatally colliding with another skier.
There was one party laying face down with a woman trying to shake him, to wake him up, and then further down the hill was another individual who was lying there. I skied down to the victim, who was Alan Cobb, and his fiancée, who was trying to shake him to wake him up. It was a pretty limp body. Further down the hill was Mr. Hall, and he was unconscious also. Now, as far as Mr. Hall goes, he had line of sight. He probably had 100 yards where he saw Mr. Cobb below him. If he had been able to adjust his course 1 foot either way, there might have been a glancing blow, but there wouldn't have been a collision where the blow resulted in death. In conjunction with the Skier Safety Act and the responsibilities that each skier has, joining that with the description of how Nathan Hall was skiing that day, bouncing off the tops of each bump, going straight down the mountain and out of control. Those two things meshed together is basically what the prosecution was based on. The related message from this whole incident is that when you ski, you have to take responsibility for your own actions, and you have to maintain your safety and the safety of others. It would be a very heavy weight to carry to know that you had killed someone through your actions.
With new technologies, skiing and riding are easier to learn. Carving skis and boards allow people to go faster sooner. Fat skis allow people to go down untracked runs easier than before. But the upshot of all that is hundreds of inexperienced skiers are coming down the hill faster than they can handle, and in areas they shouldn't really be.
Every skier, be they intermediate or expert, is moving down the hill faster today than they've ever moved before.
Everything is getting faster. The equipment is getting faster. Grooming adds to that. The high-speed lifts add to that.
And the challenge we have is to manage risk in a way that benefits everyone, but not to take the fun that's inherent to the sport away from the sport. Electronic devices, be it sound systems or cell phones or anything else that you might want to use, are not encouraged. The use of, in fact, is discouraged. You need all your senses when you're on the hill. You need every ability to hear and see what's going around you. And in fact, if you have one of those senses removed, it diminishes your ability to deal with the complexities of the task. The use of helmets has changed dramatically in the last 10 years. Helmet usage is up to about 33% across the board. In children under 9, it's up as high as 66%. But there's something to remember about helmets. And while they're important and they can in fact help prevent injury, a helmet gives you the idea that somehow you're invulnerable to the consequences. Helmets really have limits, and after about 15 miles an hour, a helmet doesn't really make a difference. The key thing to keep in mind here is put a helmet on, but ski and snowboard as though you did not have a helmet on.
We want people to understand that there is risk involved with the sport, and you do need to be responsible for yourself, and we want to get this message out that skiing can be a dangerous sport, and you're ultimately responsible for yourself out there, and you need to be looking around, you need to be listening, you need to be aware of what's going on around you, or you can get hurt.
When skiers or riders collide with others, or with trees, or with machinery, it's most likely because they forgot the golden rule of ski safety: space, not speed.
What we mean by that around here is that skiers and riders have to be very aware of the space around them. When they're skiing or riding, they'll encounter all sorts of different things on the hill, other skiers and riders, perhaps equipment, lift towers, trees, and they have to make very certain that there's plenty of room between them and those objects. Anyone can make a mistake, lose their balance, catch an edge, and the faster you're going, the more time it takes to recover from that mistake and get back under control.
So here we have a classic example of a run that is taking guests from one part of the mountain to the other. In these types of areas, with all the congestion that we have going on in this run, we'd really like people to slow down and go the same rate of speed as everyone else around you. As you can see, we have all different age levels, all different styles, levels of riding, skiing. It's important to share these areas with everyone.
Well, snowmobiles have been a part of ski area operations for the last 20 or 25 years. Increasingly, with the speed at which skiers and riders are traveling, looking for the snowmobiles with their flags, with their flashing lights, making eye contact with the operator is critical in this day and age to avoiding the unforeseen and what can be catastrophic outcomes of a collision between a snowmobile and a skier or a snow rider.
Collisions, unfortunately, are, I don't want to say a matter of course on any mountain, but they do happen.
We had a guy racing down the hill, single skier, going fast, big GS turns, having a great day, hit a catwalk at too high of a speed, launched himself over the catwalk, headfirst into a tree, cracked his brain open, and literally died in my arms as I was supporting him in the tree well.
You know, here's a young guy that hit a tree, was dead on scene, and totally avoidable. This run is a couple hundred yards wide. He just skied off the left side here and hit this tree.
Young guy, teenager, early 20s. He lost focus for just a nanosecond. He careened off the side of the trail. It was one of the worst accidents I've ever seen. I mean, he broke his arm by putting it up in front of his face and then managed to get hung upside down in a tree off the side of the trail, and he basically slit his throat and bled out.
I think the most traumatic injury that I've been on that I can really personally relate to was right below us here, and it was a beautiful spring day. The mountain wasn't very crowded, but there was 3 people that intersected at the same time down here. The 3 of them collided. All 3 were knocked unconscious. The first 2 people we rolled over, opened their airways, they started breathing again. 3rd guy we rolled over, and he was dead on scene. We performed CPR, and I still get choked up. But I remember his daughter holding his hand, saying, "Daddy, don't die."
I'm surprised at the number of people that are looking to place blame for their accident on somebody else besides themselves.
The fatalities that I've been on, the truly life-changing injuries, I believe that every one of those is preventable.
So you've just got to, as we say, be aware, ski with care, know your limits, stay focused.
In-area closures are up for a number of reasons. In this case, avalanche danger. Early season, you're probably going to have runs closed due to snow making. Ski areas will be under construction. Maybe there's an event going on. Maybe it's ski racing. But there's always a good reason for a rope to be up. You know, there's an attraction for people cutting ropes inside the ski area. And it's the thought that there's something behind there, the fresh powder, that the unattainable that's on this side of the ropes that they have to have. But you can't outthink the ropes. You're wrong. Don't cut ropes.
So far, we've only looked at the dangers inside the ski area boundary. If you choose to go outside the boundaries, you face a whole new level of risk. There are 2 main ways people die in the backcountry: avalanches and exposure.
The expectations of anyone that goes in the backcountry is self-preservation. You have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of your buddy. Ski patrol is not going to be around. No one may find you. You may be out there for days.
Avalanches kill in 2 ways. One, they trap their victim, carry them down the slope, and bury them. And that has to be a hideous way to die.
We're fortunate to have certain backcountry gates where you can go outside of the ski area boundary and access the backcountry in our national forest. When you leave the ski area boundary, however, we do not control those areas with any type of explosives or avalanche control work. You truly are on your own. You need to have the necessary gear, and if you don't, you could die.
You could be swept into rocks. You could be swept into a forest. And that forest becomes giant baseball bats that just pummel you.
If you go outside the ski area boundary and you get caught in an avalanche, unless you have somebody that can dig you up in 3 to 5 minutes, you're probably dead.
Early on the 11th at about 3 o'clock, 3:30 in the morning, I got a call from our security department saying that they had been notified that we had 3 people missing in the backcountry. It's a large area, so you've got a lot of places to go down. And this is standard run-of-the-mill backcountry stuff. You needle in a haystack. You may have a starting point, but they can go in any direction from there.
We had heard that one of the skiers was 64 years old and he was just wearing a light fleece jacket. That night he apparently got into 10 below zero. We were expecting to find 3 frozen dead guys somewhere out in the backcountry.
It was carelessness on our part. We should have really, we should have known and had a better understanding of where we were, and we didn't. And to answer truthfully, we got in trouble.
We didn't realize how easily we could get lost. Obviously, that's why we got lost.
Mentally, it was very tough because obviously we all have family and friends, and I was definitely thinking about my 11-year-old son.
I didn't know they were firemen until we started talking, and they were embarrassed. They were like, "We are rescue guys, and here we're being rescued."
There's a danger out there. You can get really hurt and you can die. And when you're sitting under a pine tree, shivering, I'd say 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and there's no hot coffee, no hot chocolate, and you're bundled up with 3 other men under pine trees, shivering, praying for the sun to come up. Everything you own and anything that you will ever have, you could lose.
There was a little concern that someone might not find us, and we knew we were in a dangerous situation. Let the ski patrol do their job and find us. Let the ski patrol do their job and find us.
One of the impressions that people have when they come here is that when they leave the ski area boundary, there's going to be somebody out there, ski patrol, to come and get them if something happens. In reality, it is outside of our jurisdiction and outside of our responsibility, and it's going to be a long time if we do come.
It was a spring day. 2 kids from Denver, high school students, came up with a church group to go skiing. They took the wrong route. They went underneath some closure ropes and ended up in an area where it's not patrolled and no one found them, and what happened was one of them died of exposure. They were totally unprepared for what was in store for them. One was dressed in dungarees, t-shirt, and a hooded sweatshirt.
When I got to the site, it was a pretty surreal scene. The one young kid was sitting in the gully. He had sort of torn his clothes off, his sweatshirt off. He was all in cotton. And I guess that's one of the classic signs of the last stages of hypothermia. Your brain sends a message to the rest of your body. They're sort of sending all the heat or whatever to your body, so you sort of start tearing away at your clothes, and that's exactly what this kid had done. And then we continued down North Game Creek some more, looking for the friend, not knowing what we were going to find, if we were going to find another dead young teenage kid. We went down another 100 yards, and I got a smile on my face because there was the kid standing there on his own. Went up to him, asked him if he was okay. He said, yeah. And then he started mumbling something. He said, but I don't think my friend back there is doing okay. I don't think he's doing okay.
These guys both discarded their equipment and were wallowing around in waist-deep snow. And then finally the guy just got totally exhausted, cold, hypothermic, and died. These guys are so close, the ambient light from 2 different restaurants could be seen from where they're at. Bottom line, if you don't know where you're going, don't go there.
The skier's responsibility code is totally common sense, and it's fairly simple. Plus, it's everywhere. On signs, on stickers, on napkins. So I guess listening to horror stories isn't that much fun. But if one person's life can be saved by watching this film, it's time well spent. Just remember, if you follow the rules, use good judgment, and know the responsibility code, skiing and snowboarding can be fun, safe, exciting, and wonderful family activities. But for the 38 or so people that may lose their lives on American slopes this season, I can guarantee you one thing. On the day it happens, each of them will wake up, get ready for skiing or riding, without the slightest notion they might die that day. Because after all, bad things only happen to other people, right? I'm George Oliphant. Have a safe season.